Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Podcast, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
I'm Tim Stenovec, along with Carol Massar. Let's take a look at some stocks. Meta Platforms taking a 49% stake in Scale AI with Alexandr Wang, who's 28 years old, joining Meta as a top executive to build AI superintelligence.
It's a stake, right?
It's a stake.
It's a stake.
S-T-A-K-E. It's not an acquisition.
Yeah.
Okay?
If it walks like an acquisition.
Dave Lee says do not call it an acquisition for a host of reasons, okay?
Yeah.
Dave Lee is U.S. technology columnist for Bloomberg Opinion. He spent about 15 years reporting on tech at the FT and BBC before joining Bloomberg. He joins us here. Do we just not call this an acquisition? Like, why are we not why are companies not acquiring things right now?
Because they're afraid to. They're afraid that the courts are going to undo their old acquisitions. So at this time, they're thinking probably too risky, too complicated. If the stake was 50% as opposed to 49%, that would, of course, be a takeover rather than an investment. And immediately that would trigger all kind of reviews. They'd have to wait. They'd have to get clearances not only in the US, but also around the world, different regulators. There's no time for that in the AI era. They've got to get to work straight away. And so we're seeing this sort of new approach, which I sort of likened in a column I wrote to sort of when a football team buys a great young prospect. You know, they pay a transfer fee to compensate wherever he's leaving. In this case, for Wang, it's about, making investors whole at Scale AI, the company he founded. And then they bring on this young talent with the view that he's going to be, he's going to run a superintelligence team at Meta. And this is obviously what Mark Zuckerberg thinks is needed to bring his team up to speed and to compete against the other big teams.
He's going to be sitting by Mark Zuckerberg, reportedly. Mm-hmm. What is superintelligence? What is, and also Scale AI is not building its own superintelligence either.
That's what's Avenger.
That's what's confusing to me.
So Scale AI is an interesting company. It's kind of right at the very early stages of AI development. It's about hiring humans to do data labeling and say that's a tree, that's a bus, and so forth.
That doesn't sound like superintelligence to me.
No, but the crucial thing, and a colleague, one of my colleagues, Ellen Hewitt, wrote this fantastic piece about Alexandr Wang today, sort of talking about how this guy knows everybody in AI and he knows everything that's going on. And one of the things about Scale AI that makes it particularly useful for Meta is that it's a company that other companies would go to when they needed data. So they were working with OpenAI, they were working with Google, they were working with several other companies. And so they have a bit of an insight into what those companies are working on and what sort of data they were needing to have. So now Mark Zuckerberg gets a bit of that intelligence.
So it's not necessarily we want what you have. We want what you know about what kind of the whole landscape is doing when it comes to AI. What have these companies come to you for?
Yeah, exactly. And also, Alexandr Wang is just known as a great networker.
Right.
And so when so much of this AI race is about talent and bringing people on, we're hearing Mark Zuckerberg is emailing people personally and saying, come and join us. I'll give you $10 million if you do it. This is just a signal of how fierce the AI race is.
It's just a different type of signing bonus, right?
Precisely.
That's what it sounds like, right?
Like a sports star, but considerably bigger in terms of the numbers we're talking about.
What's the promise, though? I mean, what is this superintelligence that they're working toward? What is the world, Dave, that Meta Platforms wants to build and be ready for?
I'm not sure I want to imagine it, frankly, but it's
you and me both. I mean,
look, there's various names for it now: superintelligence or artificial general intelligence.
Is it fair to say AGI and superintelligence are the same thing?
It's all basically the same goal. This idea that you can create this essentially one machine or one technology that people can use for whatever sort of varied uses they want an AI to do, and there is this feeling that somebody will get there first, right? Now, I'm of the view, personally, that there'll be several players doing this, and that's how the land's going to turn out. However, I think there is a sort of panic to make sure that we've got to be first or very, very close behind.
To be fair, right, Dave? I mean, Microsoft has done some similar moves, right, to try and position themselves by acquiring, either different people that seem to have certainly some AI insight or know-how. I think Alphabet has done the same thing, right? So they're all kind of jockeying for position.
They're all jockeying for position, and they're also taking the same approach of we can't be seen to be acquiring companies, but we can try and acquire people. Now, I think they're not as clever as they think in this regard. I think the Federal Trade Commission, the Department of Justice, they know what's happening here. They know this is competition just in a different form, because if you've got companies that are spending crazy money on wages, does that mean a smaller company just can't compete for talent? I guess not, right? So there's going to be, and we already know the FTC is looking into some of these deals.
They are
and
already
looking at what they're going to do. Yeah.
What's going on when it comes to innovation at these huge companies? I mean, I read your column and I think to myself, this is turning into like a Pepsi buys Poppy for $2 billion type of thing, because we want to let the startups duke it out for shelf space when it comes to probiotic soda. We're not going to develop it ourselves. Is that happening? A decade ago, I thought Facebook killed the startup ecosystem.
Well, I mean, look, I guess it's a question of the shifting purpose of the ecosystem to those big companies, right? I mean, it used to be, if you started a startup, you had several exit opportunities. You IPO, you get acquired. Both of those channels have almost been closed off. We're not seeing so many tech companies IPO anymore. That's really dried up, and it's becoming much harder for tech companies to acquire companies at all. But at the same time, the startup ecosystem still has this fantastic ability to work quickly and bring out new ideas. And I wrote in that column you referenced that, I'm not sure if Alexandr Wang joins Meta as like a junior engineer. I'm not sure he rises through the ranks and becomes this guy. I think that's only something you could do outside of the company. And that's just the nature of startups. And one of the sort of moments of real reflection in Silicon Valley was when OpenAI came along and launched ChatGPT. And everyone's going, well, hold on a second. Why? Google's been working on this for years. Microsoft's been doing it. Apple, you'd think would have been doing it, and it just wasn't at all, really. So there is this sort of understanding that the way to incubate a lot of this talent, particularly with AI, which is so talent and engineering driven, it's easier to find that in the ecosystem rather than spend all your own R&D for ideas that might come to nothing.
It's funny. I was thinking about Amazon when they used to just buy all these companies. I feel like kind of almost a catch and kill kind of thing, right? To make sure that they didn't kind of lose out on a marketplace. This sounds like it's kind of catch and not miss out as well when it comes to AI a little bit,
absolutely. Yeah,
right?
I think that's right.
They want to make sure that rather than take something out so that it's not competitive, it's to like, wait, what am I missing with people who really might have some insight into this just quickly.
I think it's they're not worried that these smaller companies are going to steal their lunch.
Right.
They're worried that these smaller companies might go and help
somebody else
steal their lunch.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.